Control: human and non-human robots. Technology not only includes things like machines and tools, but also materials, skills, knowledge, rules, regulations, procedures, and techniques. This factors in with human technology, such as a screwdriver, which is controlled by people, where non-human technology is the order window at a drive-thru, which people control. The transition from human to non-human robots, such as the ARC program, such as robots in general, they refer to things like a cook at McDonald's. They're not going to hire a gourmet chef to be a cook. They're going to hire someone with a limited amount of knowledge as to how to cook so they can teach them how they expect their food to be cooked, or in this case, warmed, because most food is prepackaged. Things like the ARC program, which stands for Automated Robotic Crew Helper, that's going to do stuff like tell a manager, we need 50 hamburgers made between the hours of 1 and 2 based off of statistics. They're not going to want that manager to figure that out on their own, because that's going to give that manager too much power within the company, which is something they are not going to want. The McChild Care Centers include things like universities, KinderCare, and Sullivan. Universities, the professors are controlled by the universities. They control the class periods that's set as to when the students are expected to leave, no matter where the professor happens to be in the lecture. They require grading. They require the professors to test the students. Some require final grades to be posted within a certain amount of time, which forces the professors maybe to not test the way that they would like to. With KinderCare, that's something that was founded in 1969. It operates with over 1,250 learning centers in the United States, with over 120,000 children between the ages of 6 weeks to 12 years that attend. They tend to hire short-term employees with little or no training in childcare, because they don't want the people that they hire to already have a mindset of how they're going to teach. They want to be able to teach them how to teach their way. Also, there's Sullivan. Sullivan is a learning center throughout the United States. This is the McDonald's of education. These kind of things are after school for remedial education. Same thing, they train staff and tailor McDonald's type of uniformity down to the U-shaped tables at which instructors work with their charges. They don't let them have the teaching ability of making their own, let's say, work schedule. They're given what they want is to be taught, and that is what they must follow, with no questions asked. The workplace is plagued with an innumerable amount of rules, regulations, guidelines, positions, lines of commands, and hierarchies that dictate what the people do within the system and how they do it. The blue-collar work, which is the lower levels of the hierarchy, they're the required workers that have to follow a series of predefined steps in a mindless fashion. Frederick Taylor believed the most important part of the work world was not employees, but rather the organization that would plan, oversee, and control their work, basically meaning upper management. The task management to study the knowledge and skills of workers and to record and tabulate them, and ultimately reduce the laws and rules and mathematical formulas so they're not thinking as much. Taylor also separated the head work from hand work. He wanted the skilled workers that had performed both. However, they wanted to transition that out with more handwork, so that the workers didn't have much say in how the company worked or what changes they made, because that would give the workers too much of their own voice, and that was something that management and any workplace would not want. When talking about controlling conception, pregnancy, childbirth, and death, this can be a really touchy subject. In conception, they do have, problems with male impotence and also female infertility. With males, there are things like Viagra, mechanical devices, new technologies that can help men perform and help play the role in pregnancies. Also with female for infertility, the advance in technology, there's the artificial donor insemination, vitro fertilization, sperm injection, surgical and non-surgical procedures, things like that. There are some clinics that are so confident on these procedures, they have a money-back guarantee if there's no live baby after 3 attempts. Women who still cannot become pregnant or even carry to term also have the option of surrogate mothers who can do the job. They also even have the option for postmenopausal women who now have the chance to become pregnant, which they consider to be the granny pregnancies. Those kind of things that's only done by the non-human side of conception in general. There's also sex selection, which is now in England, India, and Hong Kong. Basically, they control what sperm is X chromosome and which is Y, and based off of what the parents want, they get what kind of baby they want. This is touched on, that's dehumanizing the birth process, because you're taking, the child becomes a product rather than a full human being. This goes on to pregnancy in general, where we can look into things like birth defects, Huntington's disease, hemophilia, sickle cell disease. All these can be figured out before the baby's even born. Something that is also proved to be an upcoming thing is ultrasounds. This can determine sex, gestational age, and so on. Also general defects. With this is something that people think that once they find out their child has any type of defect, illness, people think that gives them at that point the right to abort the child, because people are saying that the ultimate step would be to have a societal ban on certain marriages and births, something that even China's considered. That goal being that the law reduces the number of sick or retarded children that burden the state, which of course is a really big, that's something that's fought and contemplated with others of if abortion is even right, regardless of the reason. This goes on to childbirth. With, like midwifery. This was, pretty popular in the 1900s. About half of childbirths were done by midwives. However, it decreased as time went on. Now we're looking at about 6.5% of babies in the U.S. delivered by wives, because people think that the neglect and mistreatment of the hospital staff take away from the overall effect of having a natural childbirth. It just dehumanizes the process. Some people, they have the cesarean section option. However, most people think as well, it's a natural thing. Why should you have to have a cesarean section to have kids? This goes on to talking about, the controlling process of dying. Who can say when it is time to go and who can't? The final phase of the body's breakdown can be a hugely inefficient, incalculable, and unpredictable thing. But does that mean that doctors can say, okay, that's it, I'm giving you until tomorrow. If you don't die, I'm gonna take control of that, and I'm just gonna go ahead and let it be done. This goes on to people who feel they should and have the right to decide when they die. That's left in the will so that they can state, if I'm on life support, I don't want to be revived if something were to happen to me. This goes into, where people do die. The number of deaths has slightly down to 65%. People that die in nursing homes is about 11, while 22% of people die in hospice. Just depends on the way that people choose, but does that give doctors the right to choose for them because it's inconvenient for that specific doctor? In conclusion, I think what it comes down to is within the next 10 or so years, most every, company, the world in general really is going to be non-humanized. We're not going to rely on humans as much because humans do make errors. We're going to rely on technology to help humans so that there's not much of a thinking process behind what we do. However, does that make it right because humans do make errors? It comes down to, is it fair to our upcoming generations that they're going to have to live in a society where they're not given a chance to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, to have their own thoughts? I believe that non-humanizing some things is definitely the way to go to avoid error. However, I think at the same time, people do still need to be given the option to use their own brain, have their own opinions, make their own suggestions to grow, because at this point, if they do take that away from people, then our technology is going to stop and not go anywhere at some point in time. So it's going to be good to allow people to learn and grow, or else we're going to be stuck in a mindless, non-humanized society.